Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the 5th Annual Vibrant Living Expo and Culinary Showcase. I'm Sherry Soria, and I'm very happy to be introducing to you a very good friend of mine. But before I do that, I have a couple of announcements to make. You probably all know about the reggae dance tonight. It's going to be at Town Hall. It'll be a lot of fun. It starts at 7 p.m. Also, Paul is going to be doing James Sheridan's 9 o'clock talk tomorrow morning, and he's going to be talking about health according to the scriptures. I've heard this lecture before. It's a fabulous lecture, so it's something that I think everybody would really enjoy. And so you want to mark that change on your schedule. It's not going to be James Sheridan at 9 o'clock. It's going to be Paul Nison. And then at 10 o'clock, it will be Don Weaver, who is going to be speaking about his first 36 years as a raw, 100% raw vegan. So this is somebody who has a little bit of experience as a raw vegan. So that might be something you'd also like to see. So those are two changes as a result of the fact that Dr. James Sheridan was not able to join us today. If any of the speakers here are people that you would just really love to have an in-depth one-on-one meeting with, remember that you can have consultations with them. You just need to go to them and let them know that you'd really love to have a consultation, and they'll set it up for you. We have a special consultation room designed just for that, because we know how important it is to you to not only be able to have them sign your books, but also to be able to really speak with them about what your issues are. So take advantage of that. Next, I would like to introduce to you a very good friend of mine. This is Paul Nison. He is the author of 7 books. He's a raw food chef and educator, and he's been eating a raw food diet since he was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis many years ago. With no other choice but surgery, according to the medical profession, Paul decided to stop eating all cooked foods. Today, he is 100% cured of this so-called incurable disease. Paul has been featured on the Food Network and in several magazines and newspapers around the world. He travels the world giving lectures on raw food nutrition and raw food preparation classes to show people how fun and easy it is to live the raw life. So please help me welcome Paul Nison.
Thank you. Before we get started, I need somebody. Does somebody have a piece of paper? I mean a whole piece of paper. Can somebody spare a square? Anyone? Okay. I have an email list, and I want to collect that. So as this comes around, if you can write your email down. I don't share your emails with anyone. I make sure I get very good money for it. No, I'm just kidding. Yes, thanks. Just put your email addresses on there. Great. Yes. And there's many of them. All right. All right, everybody. My name is Paul Nison. Thank you for coming here. Sherry told you my whole story, so I have nothing left to say. And I know you had other choices. How's the mic there? Is it good? Give me a thumbs up if we're good. Okay. Well, you don't hear the mic. The mic's for that. But it's good anyway, so okay. I know you had other options, and I so appreciate you came here to hear me speak. I'm really excited about all my messages that I have here this weekend. And tomorrow and then Sunday I'm going to be doing my new lecture, The Daylight Diet. But the lecture I do now is one I've been talking about for a long time, and it's based on this book called The Raw Food Formula for Health. And actually my publisher put raw food in there because it's a formula for health. And the highest quality food we eat will help that formula. However, you do not need to be 100% raw to apply this formula. And so we're going to talk a little about that. But let me just get into my background a little and see how many people here have heard me speak before. How many of you have heard me speak before? Wonderful. Okay, good amount. And how many of you people here are eating a raw food diet? And I don't mean like just today. All right, good, good. How many of you eating a diet that has a lot of raw foods in it, but it's not necessarily all raw? Okay. How many of you here are not necessarily raw, but you're vegans? Vegans. You don't eat anything that comes from an animal or any animals. How many of you here are not vegans? You eat, you eat animals or anything? Okay. How many of you really don't want to be here? Just got dragged by somebody else? And who doesn't want to be here? Raise your hand if you don't want to be here. Okay. So I've been eating the raw food diet for quite a while now, and I got involved in this when I got diagnosed with inflammatory bowel disease. And that's inflammation of the colon. Anytime you have an illness that ends in the letters itis. It means there's inflammation somewhere in the body. And I was diagnosed with inflammation of the colon. You have arthritis, pancreatitis, colitis, and so on. So I'm waiting to get moneyitis, so my wallet inflames. But that hasn't happened yet. So I decided, I wanted to get better, and I listened to my doctor, but everything my doctor was telling me didn't seem to work. As a matter of fact, every time I did what she told me to do, I got worse. I wasn't getting better. Then finally I got wise, and I started doing the opposite, and I got well again. I tell everyone in this room, if you want to be the healthiest person here, go find the most popular doctor around, or whatever they say, do the opposite, and you'll be pretty healthy. Are there any doctors here today? Good. Okay, good. Now, not all doctors are bad. I mean, if I get an emergency accident, don't tell me to eat an apple. Send me to the emergency room. But if I put something in my body to create an illness, the answer isn't taking some drug to deal with the pain. The answer is to eliminate what caused the problem. Health doesn't begin with what we add to our diet. It's what we eliminate. Eliminate what caused the problem, and the problem will begin to go away. Everyone say eliminate. Eliminate. Now say it with enthusiasm. Eliminate. Enthusiasm makes the difference. Whatever it is you want to do, if you want to eat more raw fruits and vegetables, or if you want to be 100% raw, the key to success is being consistent at what you're doing. And the key to being consistent is about having joy about and understanding about what you're doing. So we have to have that, and all that equals up into enthusiasm. I don't want you to be raw or healthy for a month, a week, or a year. I want you to be successful for the rest of your life. So we need to have consistent enthusiasm. Okay? So we need to have consistent enthusiasm, okay? Okay. It is the difference between failure and success. So when I was doing my research, I like to always study books from the past. Before they were selling all these junk foods, for example, when I became a vegetarian, I was really confused. I went on a vegetarian diet, but I was on a junk food vegetarian diet. Example, if you have a cookie and then you have an organic cookie, it's still cookies. It doesn't make a big difference. So many people today talk about all these different superfoods and everything else. The real superfoods are the fruits and vegetables that you put in the ground, and they grow to more food. If it's in a bag, container, box, can, or bottle, it might be okay occasionally, but that shouldn't be in your body the majority of the time. The real superfoods, the only wrapper around those should be the skin around the fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds. So when I first got into this, I was very confused because there were so many people confusing me, telling me, take this product or that product or this product and so on. But then I got wise, and I went back right to nature, and I said, okay, what's grown in nature? And what state is it in? Is it healthy to eat and so on? Is it good to eat? And that's when I learned that. So when I looked on, I can't look at health books from today, because 95% of the health books from today will tell you to take some type of product. I tell people, if it wasn't food considered food 100 years ago, you should question if it should be considered food today. I tell people, if you can't put it in the ground, it's not going to grow up into more food, it shouldn't be in your body. I tell people, if it has to pass your car window to be considered food, it shouldn't be in your body either. We have to understand the problem we have out there. So we have to understand the books today. Some of them are wonderful. I have them right downstairs on my table. But there are other books down there that we have to be really careful about. You do not need to spend a lot of money. You do not need to spend a lot of time. You do not need to be bored eating a raw food diet. And I hear all the excuses. I hear people say, well, it's too much work. It's too much work if you're going to make raw food gourmet recipes every single meal. Yes, it is. But if you're just eating fruits and vegetables in a natural state, it's not a lot of work at all. There's no food faster than that. Then some people say, I know what you're saying, Paul, but, it's too much money. I say it's not too much money, because when you eat high-quality food, you need to eat less often. The less you eat, the less money you're spending on what? Exactly. And then people say, there's not enough of variety. I say, you could eat a different variety every single day for the rest of your life and not come close to tasting all of the fruits and vegetables. So it's not a lack of variety. Then people say, Paul, I know what you're saying, but I just love to eat. I say, well, if you eat less, you live longer and you'll get to eat more. We have to understand, we don't need all these crazy things out there. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money. The fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds in the majority of our diet, that's what they should be. And it all comes down to the formula for health. So I was reading all these books from the past. I read books by so many people from the past. As a matter of fact, I got the Daylight Diet, which I'm going to talk about on Sunday, which is my new book from reading history books. I got the Health in the Scriptures from reading the Scriptures, which is the greatest history book. So I learned about all this, and then I had written many other books, and I won't get too much into my background because I don't have as much time, but I remember I read a book by a fellow named Arnold Ehret. Has anyone here ever heard of Arnold Ehret? You all should have. I just mentioned his name 2 times. Arnold Ehret is a fellow who wrote books back in Germany, and he came to this country in the early 1900s, and he had some books. One of his books was very popular. It was called The Mucusless Diet Healing System. Probably one of the greatest names for a book ever written, The Mucusless Diet Healing System. Everyone say that 10 times real fast. Okay. The Mucusless Diet Healing System. So he wrote this book, and then he wrote other books, Rational Fasting, The Cure is the Cause, not The Cure is the Cause, The Cure and Cause of All Human Illness. And in all his books, he had something called The Formula for Life. And the formula for life is a simple formula we could apply to our diets regardless of what we decide to eat, regardless if we want to be 100% raw, if we want to be vegetarian or not. If we apply the principles found in the formula for health or the formula for life, we will have just that. But the more we get away from that, the more we suffer. I call it the formula for health, and it's the whole basis of this book here, the Raw Food Formula for Health. And basically, I'm going to give you that formula, but before I do that, I tell you there's 3 things that I have found motivates people to come to a health lecture. And it's not learning what food is best for our body. That's not one of those 3 things. The number one motivating reason somebody comes to a health lecture is if somebody has a disease, how do they get rid of it? You see, some people look at a disease as a bad thing, but for me it was a blessing because it motivated me to learn about health before my disease got even worse. So disease is actually not a bad thing if you use it the right way. The number one motivating reason people come to a health lecture is to learn about disease, how they can get rid of it. The number 2 motivating reason is if somebody doesn't have a disease, how do they avoid getting it? And number 3 motivating reason is how does somebody stay looking young and having a tremendous amount of energy? And all these can be answered with the formula for life or the formula for health. It's the same thing because health is life and so on. So I was looking at this and I read this book by Arnold Ehret, The Mucusless Diet Healing System, and I'm going to give you that formula. But before I give you that formula, let me say that your diet and your health has a tremendous impact on accomplishing these 3 things that we all come to learn about. However, most of the disease, or 86% of disease, is stress-related. 14% is diet-related. That's what they're showing on the average. Now, it's an important 14%, but I don't care how well you're eating. If you're getting stressed out, if you're going to a job you don't enjoy, if you're doing things you don't like, if you're not smiling all the time like right now and all the time, you're not going to be as healthy as you can be. We have to understand the importance of the stress level, and we have to continuously be enthusiastic and smile as big as we're smiling right now. I was being sarcastic. Okay, now you're smiling. That's better. Okay, so we have to understand that, and we can't be fooled by what's going on in the raw food world. We have to just go back and see what nature says, and we're going to learn about this formula for health. So the formula for health tells us, simply what we need to be doing. But first thing I want to talk about is disease. I want to talk about disease because that's what's motivating everyone so much. What is disease? How do we get it? How do we overcome it? How do we avoid it? And all this stuff. First thing we think about is what is disease? Disease is an alarm system. It's the body's alarm system to tell us we're doing something wrong. Well, I've learned from living in New York City that if you ignore alarm long enough, you don't hear it even though it's still going on. People come over to my house to sleep and they were like, how can you sleep? I heard the car alarms all night. And I didn't even hear them because you adapt to them. You get used to them. Well, your body adapts and gets used to unhealthy things. So you can't just react. You can't just go, I tell people, how do you even know you have a disease? They go, well, I feel. We can't go by how we feel because, many of us have been just ignoring something so long we don't see the warning signs. We don't know. For example, if I smoked a cigarette, as soon as I took one puff, I would start coughing. My body would react the correct way. However, if I just ignore that and work through it, before you know it, I'll be coughing. I won't be coughing, but I'll be smoking a lot of cigarettes. See, the body will adapt to its environment and it will adapt to its diet. So we can't just go by how we feel. Disease is an alarm to warn us something's wrong, but we have to know when it's going off, and then we have to react to it. That's another big problem. Most people, even though if they know something's wrong, they don't react. Everyone say react. React. Now say it with enthusiasm. React. We need to make sure that we take action to the alarm and so on. So now we know what disease is. It's an alarm system. It's actually a good thing to wake us up. Now we know what, we understand how to identify disease, at least not to identify. We don't go by how we feel. How do we truly identify it? There's many signs of the body to tell us something is wrong. However, there's only one true way to confirm you have a disease or exactly what else is going on in the body. And no matter what anyone says, people can look at your face, they can look at your feet, they can feel the air around you, whatever you think. There might be signs that can give people an idea of what's happening, but there's only one true way to tell what's going on inside your body, and that is by buying my book. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. The one true way to tell what's truly going on in the body is understand the blood is the messenger of the body. By getting a chemistry profile test, you can tell exactly what is happening with the body, and no two people are in the right place at the same place. So it's an individual thing. There's no one exact protocol for everyone because it has to be individualized, not based on what's working for everyone, not based on what food I'm selling today or what super powder I'm selling today, but based on what our blood work says. That's what it should be based on. Here's the problem. Most doctors don't know how to read the blood work. You might be too high, everyone might be too high, and you might be perfectly fine, and they'll say you're low. So you have to go to somebody who knows how to read the blood work and somebody who knows how to react to that and help you, put you on a program for that. So that's how we tell truly what's going on in the system is, by looking at the blood work. Understand, there's only one disease in the world today. There's only one disease with many different stages. And the first stages are the things we need to take care of so they don't get worse. But so many people miss the first stages that it keeps coming back worse and worse and worse until they end up into the latest stages of disease before they ever do something about it. And the latest stage of disease will be inflammation somewhere in the body, or will be cancer and so on. Nobody wakes up one day with cancer without ever experiencing the beginning signs of disease. What happens is they ignored it or missed it, and it kept coming back worse and worse and worse. But just as your body has gotten all the way there, it can be reversed if you reverse the problem. And we're going to do that with the Formula for Health. But I tell you, at Hippocrates Health Institute, where I learned about the raw food diet and lifestyle, that it's helped more people in the history of man by getting better from illnesses, by changing their diet and lifestyle. A lot of people come there in the latest stages of disease, and they apply the principles to the formula of health, and they reverse it. Why I say that is because most people think that if they're in a stage 4 cancer or something else, that there's no hope. Well, first of all, if you're thinking that, guess what? There's no hope. However, what nerve a doctor would have telling somebody, that you only have, this much time or there's nothing we can do? There's no medical test in the history of man that could tell you that you only have 2 weeks to live or 2 months to live or so on. So you cannot listen, no matter what stage of disease you're in, do not put your trust in a doctor's prognosis. As a matter of fact, I would get as far away from that doctor as possible because the only thing the doctors are using to determine you only have 2 weeks to live is every person that has dealt with every person that doctor has dealt with that situation has only survived that time. That's not a very good doctor. You want to go to somebody that says you had 80 years to live, not 2 weeks or 2 months or so on. Never give up, no matter what your situation is. And I see people come that told they had 2 or 3 weeks to live, and they've reversed it, and they've lived much longer. They outlived their doctor, and that doesn't mean their doctor died in 2 or 3 weeks. They went on to have a very long, healthy lifestyle. But I don't even want to focus on the latest stages of disease. I want to focus on the beginning stages, because if you take care of the beginning stages, you don't have to worry about the latest stages. And the beginning stages of disease are so common today that everyone suffers from it, so they just accept it as normal. Well, what's normal is not always right, and what's right is not always normal. See, I'm from the East Coast. We talk a little slow. So there are people here from New York, right? Good. Our translators are in the room. Good. Philly, that's good. That's a good translator. Okay. So we have to understand that we must look at the beginning stage of disease. So what are the beginning stages of disease? How do we know we have a disease if we can't go by how we feel? And before we're looking at the blood, there's 2 common signs that just about everyone's suffering from today that is a disease that most people are deceived to believe is not. And those are laziness and constipation. Laziness and constipation are the 2 big beginning signs of disease. As a matter of fact, I know people that are so happy they're constipated because they're so lazy they don't want to get up and go to the bathroom. That's how bad it's become in today's world. Now, some people try to deny that, but I don't listen to people that are full of something. But we have to understand how bad it is in today's world. Well, no matter what you've been told, if you have a lack of energy And if you have constipation, which one they go right with each other, you're not healthy. Disease is brewing in your body, and those are the beginning signs. And if you ignore them, it comes back worse and worse and worse. So now we know what disease is. We know how to identify it. Now the magic question in everyone's mind should be, what causes disease? Okay, I know sleep's important, but we got to stay awake. Okay, what causes disease should be the magic question in everyone's mind. And here it is. There are many different things in this world that cause disease, but from a diet or a lifestyle standpoint, there are two. No matter what diet you decide to eat, no matter how you decide to live, overeating and undersleeping are the two biggest causes of disease. Overeating and undersleeping are the two major problems people have. This is why most people eating a raw food diet are not doing too well. Believe it or not, more people eating a raw food diet are sicker today than ever before. Most of them are worse after eating more than they were before. Because they think, now I'm eating raw food and I can eat whatever I want, and they're eating too late at night, they're overeating, and they're eating too often. And this is creating a big problem. The key is to eating less, not more. See, the more we eat, then it starts to affect how much sleep we actually need. And all health, I'm going to repeat this so you can write this down, all health is determined by the quantity and the quality of sleep you get. The whole key to eating a healthy diet is to put your body in a position to get the proper amount of sleep you need, and that's where the cleansing and the healing takes place. But when you're eating more food your body needs, too often, too much, and too late, your body cannot digest that food properly, and you're going to require more time to do that. And instead of us staying in bed longer, what do? We set up these dangerous things next to our bed called an alarm clock, and we stop our sleep. We cut our sleep short. Sleep is another word for healing. When you cut your sleep short, you cut your healing short. You might just say, well, I had an appointment, so I got up early today with the alarm clock. But the key is, if you have an appointment, well, get to sleep earlier, because you're cutting off your healing. We need to make sure we put our body in the right situation to get the proper amount of rest and sleep. And one of the ways to do that is to eat the proper type of food and amount of food, and to eat it at the right time. And this has become a big problem. So we look at sleep being so important, and overeating is the thing that interferes with our sleep. So take a wild, wild, wild guess what the answer will be for health. To eat less. To eat less. That's it. But no, we can't eat less, because we're just overeating and more overeating. You got to think, well, why do we overeat to begin with? Well, there are many different reasons we overeat, but for one, if the quality of the food is not as good as it can be, no matter how much food you put in your body, guess what you're going to crave? More food. Because your body has to be satisfied with certain nutrients, a certain amount. But when you're putting foods in your body, even though you're eating them and you're not giving your body the nutrients it needs, it's always going to crave more. And if you don't have the understanding, or if you continuously eat the foods that have the lack of the nutrients, no matter how much you give your body food-wise, and your body doesn't get what it needs, then waste starts to build up in the body. And then we start off with constipation and laziness, and the problems go worse and worse until we have inflammation, and then diabetes and cancer and all these other diseases on a cellular level. Just cut the amount of food you eat. I know people that do not eat a healthy diet at all, but they don't overeat, and they're doing much better than people that eat a raw food diet and overeat. The quality of the food will help you tremendously not overeat. So we need to work on that. Then there are emotional reasons people overeat. And there are other spiritual reasons people overeat, but the main problem is the quality of the food and the understanding of this. I have a problem with a raw vegan diet, because if you do it the correct way, it could be the healthiest diet in the world. But I'll be honest with you, most people can't do it the right way for several reasons. They either don't know how, or if they do know how, they can't get it, or so on. So if you're not going to eat a raw vegan diet the right way, if you're going to eat mostly of the foods that come from a bag, container, box, or can, if you're going to be deceived by people that say, well, this chocolate is healthy, or this wine is healthy, and all this other stuff, you're going to be eating a raw vegan diet, but it's not going to be healthy. Then you're going to end up, another statistic of the raw food is that we're on a raw food diet at one time but stopped. Well, if you're wise, you'll stop, because if you're not doing it the right way, you'll end up with a deficiency, you'll end up sicker much quicker than if you never did it at all. So we need to make sure we do this the right way, or not do it at all. There's no problem, by the way, eating things that are not raw vegan if you're eating the right amount of food and the right quality of food. But if you are going to be a raw vegan, it's so essential to make sure you're getting what you need and the right quality of the food you need. I take enzymes with my food. People say, why, if I'm an all raw, 100% raw foodist? Because I know when I pick the food out of the ground, if it's sitting in Whole Paycheck or Whole Foods or one of those stores, I know after 2 or 3 weeks sitting on the shelf, or if it's flown from California after 2 weeks, it's lost up to 50% of the enzymes in the food. If the whole reason I'm a raw foodist is to get the enzymes, why would I want to eat food that's not fresh? Because I don't have a choice, because I don't live on a farm. So if I don't live on a farm and I can't grow my own food, which we all can, and if I don't know about wild foods, which we can all learn about, then I should take enzymes with my food to help the digestive process. So we have to understand where the problem comes from and get rid of the root of the problem. It's not about taking some magic powder because you have a deficiency. It's about why do you have the deficiency. It's not about doing all these things that you got to spend a lot of money on. It does not take a lot of money to do this. It doesn't have to. You know, and I see a lot of people being deceived today in the raw food movement with all of this stuff. Matter of fact, my friend John's going to be giving a lecture this weekend about is it really raw? Because most of the things that are being promoted raw aren't even really raw. And if they are, they're certainly not healthy. You know, people ask, well, if they're not healthy, why were they created? Well, they weren't created for us to eat, especially the majority of our diet. You know, I'm going to give a lecture tomorrow at 9 a.m. and we're going to see what we were created to eat. And then I'm going to give a lecture on Sunday to see what times we were created to eat it. So we look at that and we have to understand all that before we even think about the formula for health. And now we're going to talk about the formula for health. The formula for health, started by Arnold Ehret, called the formula for life, is very simple. Power minus obstruction equals vitality. Power minus obstruction equals vitality. I'll say it one more time because they say if you say something 3 times, people remember it. Power minus obstruction equals vitality. Has everyone got that? So I guess it works. Buy my book, buy my book, buy my book. Guess it works. And let me tell you, I didn't come here to sell books. I don't even have books with me. I came here to teach this message because I want you to understand the message. You want to get my book, go to my website. Go to the store downstairs. But I want you to get the message. I want you to understand. You don't have to spend all this money on these crazy things, even if it's good for you. Before you waste your money on that, get a blood test. See what you truly need, not what other people are telling you need. And there are a lot of people out there that have no idea how to read the blood test, and a lot of people out there that have no idea about nutrition and all these other things. But you should be blessed to know there are people here this weekend that do know. I recommend just 2 people right off. I'll recommend 2 people, and then we'll get into the formula for health some more. One of them right back there, Tom Lodi. I know for a long time because he worked with a good friend of mine, Dr. Fred Bishey. And Tom is one person that I would definitely recommend anyone go to learn about this. Another one is Rick Dina, Dr. Rick Dina, who'll be here this weekend as well, him and his wife Karen, and they're teaching a class here on Monday. I don't just make endorsements for people. I know their history. I know what they teach, and I know what they recommend and so on. And Hippocrates Health Institute, Brian Clement, who'll be here this weekend as well. These are people you need to circle on that thing, and you need to see these people have been doing this for a long time. From a chemistry standpoint, they're helping people on an individual basis based on what that person needs. Not what, oh, today I have this new super powder, so I'm going to sell this and make people buy it. Well, no one's buying this because it's a green powder. Well, you know what? I'm going to have to get someone to buy it, so I'm going to have this new product out called raw coffee. All of a sudden, everyone's buying raw coffee. You know, I decided, you know, if it says the word raw in it, all of a sudden people think it's healthy. So you know what I'm going to do? Since my sense of humor is so dry, I'm going to start selling water at my lectures. And if that doesn't work to get people to buy it, you know what I'll do? I'll take a cup of water or a bottle of water, and I'll write the words raw on it. And now all of a sudden I'm selling raw water. So now I'm going to be a hit in the raw food community. Everyone's going to buy it. And just in case that doesn't work, I'm going to call it superfood water. This is a new superfood water, because I had it standing in the sun, 3/4 of an angle off this, only in a special spot around the world, just happened to be my backyard, coming from this special magic faucet, and if you add, you know, this other product that I have there, I'll just add that to it. Next thing you know, you got this product all for 3 simple payments of $300. Next thing you know, people are buying it because they're saying, well, you know, everyone else is buying it. Everyone else is getting sick. We're not getting better. We have to get better. Keep it simple. Okay, so the formula for health, power minus obstruction equals vitality. And what does that really mean? That really means health minus disease equals wellness. Health minus disease equals wellness. Am I doing a good job, cameraman, by going back and forth and keeping you good? Health minus disease equals wellness. That's it right there. Understand, when we're born, we have a tremendous amount of health, and we have a little amount of obstruction. Power minus obstruction is where we get our vitality from. But as we get older, our obstruction rises. The stresses in our lives, doing things that stress us out, that we have control over, doing things that stress out that we don't have control over. But as our obstruction is rising, our power is diminishing. And the key to health is to understand, as long as we have enough power within us to get rid of the obstruction, we're going to have some state of vitality. As long as we have a little bit more health than disease, we're going to be in some good state. However, once that obstruction passes the power to get rid of it, we start experiencing the beginning signs of disease. And if we ignore that, the obstruction keeps rising and the power keeps diminishing. And when we end up there, we end up with the latest stages of disease. But just have we done this, we can simply reverse it by eliminating the cause of the problem, eliminating the obstruction, the stresses, and then the power comes back, and eventually you can be healthy again. So the obstruction, again, is putting the things in the body that do not belong there, putting the things in the mind that do not belong there, and so on. That's what the obstruction is. Now the question in everyone's mind should be is, where do we get the power from? Hello? The questions in everyone's mind should be, where do we get the power from? You guys are good. Okay. Where do we get the power from? And here it is. You could have the biggest car with the most powerful engine, but that engine is not going anywhere without energy. It's the energy that supplies the power to get rid of the obstruction. It's the energy that supplies the power to get rid of the obstruction. Now the questions on everyone's mind should be is, where do we get the energy? With enthusiasm, where do we get the energy? Okay, you said that with a lack of energy. It's like the oxymoron lifestyle. That's what this world is. This raw food diet is a oxymoron lifestyle, because people will do one thing good for them and one thing bad for them. Let me give you an example. I was just in New York City and I saw people rushing to get to a yoga class so they could relax. You know, 1 minus 1 is 0, so we got to be careful with things weighing each other out. You know, so if something has some good things in it, but a lot of bad things in it, it's not necessarily good. So be careful when people are promoting certain things that have some good things in it and a lot of bad things in it. It's not necessarily good. So talk like okay, sorry, I had something caught in my throat. So now we have to understand. So the energy, where do we get the energy from? And here's the thing: we don't get the energy from anywhere. The body is built to have a full supply of energy if we get the proper amount of rest and sleep every night that we need. For example, your cell phones, when you go to sleep at night, if you plug in your cell phones, you wake up and it's fully charged. What happens if you forget to plug your cell phone in at nighttime? You wake up in the morning and it's not fully charged. Your body is the same way. When you do not consistently get the proper amount of sleep your body needs, at the right time, the proper quality of sleep your body needs, you're not going to be fully charged. So instead of having all this power and energy to get rid of all this obstruction, you now have very little energy and all this obstruction. When you sleep and get the right amount of sleep, your body is recharged. It all comes down to the quality and quantity of sleep we get. That's where we get that energy from. I want to talk a little about sleeping, and then I want to talk about how we can apply the formula to health to the raw food lifestyle or to a diet lifestyle, and we can see what happens. The first one is sleep. Sleep is a big problem because people don't know what good sleep is. They don't know how to get good sleep. They know very little about good sleep. And the reason why it's so important is just to prove we don't get good sleep. The number one misdiagnosed but common disease out there today from a physical standpoint is adrenal fatigue. Adrenal fatigue, being burnt out, wiped out, chronic fatigue, whatever you want to call it, which comes from not necessarily a lack of sleep, because people get a lot of sleep. It comes from a lack of enough sleep. So the more you're eating, the more you're stressing, the more you're creating obstruction, the more sleep you require. But there's not enough amount of days or hours in a day to get that much sleep. So people say, well, what's the cure? Stay in bed all day and quit my job? No, the cure is to find out why you require so much sleep and eliminate that, and then you require less sleep, where you put yourself in a position to get enough sleep. That's what we have to do. Then we look at the quality of the sleep. People do not, and I repeat, people do not know how to get good sleep. One of the most unhealthy things we do on a regular basis, you know, and we complain, we talk about the oxymoron diet, we just think about this. You know, people are in an airplane, And they're always complaining, oh, the air here is recycled, I get a headache, I don't feel well, I'm dizzy, I'm tired on the plane. Then what do these oxymoron society do? We go into our own houses and we slam shut the windows and turn on the air conditioning. The greatest thing you can do for your health is free. You know what it is? Open up your windows when you sleep at nighttime. Open up your windows when you sleep at nighttime. But you might have a challenge doing this if you live in Brooklyn, because you don't want to wake up with any special guests in your house. However, we need to get fresh air. And people do not open up their windows enough. They complain it's too hot, it's too cold. Even if you need this poisonous heat and this poisonous air conditioning on all night, consistently, every day for your whole life, open up the window while it's on. But people say, well, it's too much money. Well, what's more important, your money or your health? I understand how uncomfortable it could be in heat. I live in Florida. But I also understand the body just has amazing power to adapt and is adopted to eating such an unnatural and living an unnatural lifestyle. It can also adapt the other way, and you can be fine in this heat, and you can be fine in the cold weather if you, with wisdom, adopt the other way. You can do it. I love it. I sleep pretty much all the time as much as I can. I learned something many years ago, and I have to talk about this, and then we'll talk about the formula for health from a diet standpoint. Years ago, I learned about this tremendous thing. I remember I grew up in New York now, and I never slept outside in New York voluntarily. Okay, so I never slept outside voluntarily in New York, but then I came out west once, and I remember I was in a house. Stacy Cohen had a big event, one of the raw food expos that they had in Portland, and I was there, and we were all staying at. Well, they're following me from New York. Okay, so then I was there, and I was in her house, and a whole bunch of people were going to stay at her house, and she had a good-sized house, but there were more people than there was room for, at least more people than there were bed for. And I'm like, something's not adding up here. I mean, I didn't know math too well, but I'm saying there's many more people than there's space for these people. Something's got to happen here. And there was a lot of the speakers that are around that were there at that time. And I was like, oh, what's going to happen here? And I was quite interested to find this one out. So next thing I know, I remember the Raw family was there. You know the Batinkos, the Raw family? So they were there, and I'm thinking, next thing I know is come time for bed, and people are going to sleep, and some people slept on the floor. That's fine. I love sleeping on the floor. As a matter of fact, I have a tough time sleeping if I'm not on the floor. Just last night, for the first time in weeks, not even months, since we had our baby, we just had a baby, 7 months old now, and I keep saying a newborn, but so we just had our baby, and it's hilarious because my wife sleeps with the baby, and now I sleep on the floor. I'm like the family dog now that we never had. And to make it even funnier is, now I got addicted to sleeping outside. So, now I sleep outside. So I always remind my wife at night to put the dog out. So here's what happened. So I'm like, where's everyone going to sleep? And then I realized this. I said, well, wait a second. I was looking around the house before everyone's asleep, and somebody stole the Batinkos. The Raw family was missing. I'm thinking, somebody kidnapped the Batinkos. This isn't good. So I was looking all over for them, and I just was beyond myself where they could be because I saw them getting ready for sleep. And next thing I know, I couldn't find them in a house. And you got to remember, this is somebody from New York, and I could never even imagine where they would be. Because it was cold outside, I remember that much. Anyway, I looked outside, because somebody told me I could see something called stars for the first time in my life, because I grew up in the city. So I looked outside, and I saw a whole bunch of stars. It was the Raw family. They were there sleeping outside on the floor, outside. And I was really upset. And I went to the lady of the house, and I said, how dare you? These people come here to present, and they come all the way here to give their lectures, and you're making them sleep outside? And she said, no, Paul, they prefer to sleep outside. Now I'm really confused. And because in New York, it's different than out west. Out west, if you sleep outside, it's called camping. In New York, if you sleep outside, it's called homeless. It's a big difference. So I'm like really confused now. And anyway, I was so confused and so intrigued, I actually woke them up. I went out there and I woke them up and I said, what's wrong? Why are you sleeping outside? I thought they were just being nice or something. And they explained to me the importance of fresh air. And I was like, this is amazing. So can I try? So for the first time in my life, it was amazing. So for the first time in my life, I slept outside. And I had the best night of sleep I ever had in my life. And I got really excited and addicted to sleeping outside, that I was sleeping outside everywhere. And wherever I went, I would sleep outside. As a matter of fact, I was traveling with Dr. Fred Bishey, and up to that point, I had never, I didn't travel with him much, but he came to me one day, he goes, Paul, I've never seen you sleep inside. And I'm thinking, well, you know, I like sleeping outside, but I had to be careful now because I used to just sleep outside automatically. Let me see your backyard. But now I'm very careful to check the area because I remember I was in an area not too long ago, well, years ago. It was in Reno, Nevada. My friend Rudy Bavanovich had a book called The Cure is the Cause. We were doing a big event the next day. I wanted to get a good night's worth of sleep. So I remember I went to her house and I said, I'm going to get a great night's worth of sleep. I'm going to sleep outside. She had a big pasture and everything else. I'm going to sleep out there on that hill. She's like, I wouldn't do that. You know, I'm like, why? She says, it's snowing outside. And I'm thinking, well, I've learned this trick from the Batinkos. It's not a big deal. You just take your clothes off within the sleeping bag, take them off, and it keeps the heat in the bag. So I'm like, got a sleeping bag? She said, yeah. So I took the sleeping bag. So I was going outside. She was trying to discourage me. She's like, we have mountain lions out there. And I'm thinking, what are the odds I'm going to see a mountain lion? And even if I did, it's going to be more scared of me than I would be of it. So I took my cell phone just in case. So I got out there, I got the sleeping bag, I went out there, I got my clothes off on a nice hill away, and I still don't remember this. One day, somebody please explain this to me. It was snowing out, but I saw stars. I must have been on a high mountain, but I don't understand this one. So I got there, and I was getting ready to get a good night's worth of sleep. All of a sudden, I hear something. And I look up, and I see sitting there looking at me a mountain lion. And I'm thinking, this isn't good. This is where the power of prayer comes in very handy. So I didn't know what to do, so I very slowly reached for my cell phone, and I went to call, and not like, I don't know what they were going to do, but I went to call, and it was out of range. So I'm like, man, I don't know what to do, and it was just sitting there, and it wouldn't move, and I'm thinking, you know, doesn't this thing got to go find some food or something? I hope not. But here I am sitting there, and all of a sudden I was thinking, you know, I'm just going to lay here. I'm certainly not going to get out of my sleeping bag and try to outrun this thing naked across the woods or something. So I just stayed there waiting to see what happened, and this is why it's important to check the area before you go sleep somewhere next time. So I get up and I just lay there. I didn't get a good night's worth of sleep. And I wake up in the morning and I look up and it's still there. And then as the sun come up and looking very closely, it actually wasn't a mountain lion. It was a garbage can with two things sticking out. And it was like the perfect shape of a mountain lion with a little hose in the back that looked like a tail. And I'm thinking the next day, she's like, how'd you sleep? I'm like, just throw your garbage out. So now I make sure I look outside before I go somewhere, and I sleep outside. And, you know, so anyway, so now I was sleeping outside everywhere except in Florida where I live. And I'm like, the only place I live I can't sleep outside. This isn't good either because I wanted to sleep outside everywhere. So I met this other couple that I once met. They lived on a school bus. And then I met them. I hadn't seen them in like 15 years. I see them 15 years later, just not recently. I have a video show, by the way, called Rural Life Health Show. RuralLifeHealthShow.com. If you're not already on that, get on it. RuralLifeHealthShow.com. Who has that email list that's going around, by the way? Did everyone sign that? No. Okay, if you could pass it up here. That's the way it works. We pass it around. Okay. So come on up to the front. Nobody signed it up. Raise your hand if you didn't sign it. All right, pass it up to the people that didn't sign it. So, RuralLifeHealthShow.com. And by the way, my website, before we run out of time, is PaulNison.com. 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 And you can get my books if you want them at RawLife.com. RAWLIFE.com. Okay, so I saw these people. I hadn't seen them in a long time, and I interviewed them for my show, The Raw Life, and I go, what you been up to? They said, we no longer live in a bus. They upgraded or downgraded, however you look at it. They now live in a tent. And I'm like thinking, well, what's up with this? And they told me about the fresh air thing. They live in Florida, but there's no mosquitoes, which out west they call them no-see-ums. I'll never forget when I moved out west, where I said, why do they call them no-see-ums? And the next day my arm was full of mosquito bites. But I never saw them. So now I understand why. But in New York, you see those mosquitoes, and you hear them and stuff. So I get great. So now I live in a tent, and it works wonderful. So I got really excited about tent living and everything else, so I typed on the internet, tent living, benefits, health benefits, and I started to get depressed because I saw all these people living all over the country now. They're living in these tent cities that they're setting up everywhere because they've got kicked out of their houses and everything else. They lost their jobs. And just like I had my disease and I could have looked at it as a bad thing, I said, wait a second, this might not be a bad thing. It might be a good thing. Because for the first time in these people's life, they're actually sleeping in fresh air instead of keep sleeping in air in their house that's not good. For the first time in these people's life, they don't have health insurance, so they actually care about what they're eating. So we have two different ways to look at this. For the first time in these people's lives, they're taking responsibility for their own health. Just like with my disease, for the first time in my life, I was forced into taking responsibility for my health. It's your approach and how you look at this. So now I got 9 minutes left to tell you how to apply this from a diet standpoint. And I think I can do it because I talk very fast. Are we ready? Yes. Drum roll, please. Okay. Here it is. there's 3 things we need from our food for our food to be healthy for us. Not one of these 3 things, but all 3 things. And it is the highest quality foods for your body are the foods that will give your body the highest amount of nutrition, the highest amount of nutrients, while using the least amount of energy to get those nutrients, while keeping the environment of the body as clean as possible. The best foods for your body are the foods that will give you the most nutrients while using the least amount of energy to get those nutrients while keeping the environment of the body as clean as possible. That's it right there. Now, through the process of elimination, let's see what those are. First thing is nutrition. Here's where all the confusion comes in when it comes to food and diet. Everyone's looking only at nutrients. Remember, I said it's all 3, not one of the 3. If we're just looking at nutrients, we'd have a very confusing time, and that's what's happening. Because everything has nutrients. You can get nutrients out of fruits, vegetables, meat, bread, and everything else. Everything has nutrients, but it goes much beyond that. It's not just the nutrients. The second thing is the most important, I believe, and that is how much energy does our body has to use to get those nutrients. And this is why living foods, sprouts, enzymes, and raw foods are the highest quality foods for the body. Because all dead foods, and most animal foods, and most low-quality foods, and most unfresh, unripe, unorganic foods do not have, the enzymes and things in it, and the body has to work much harder to get what it needs. The sprouting, the raw foods, the enzymes, these help the body get it much easier. And then the third thing was to keep the environment of the body as clean as possible, and that's 2 things. Number 1 is probiotics, keeping the gut working well, and we take probiotic supplement and make that happen, or eat more alkalizing foods and make that happen. But really keeping the environment of the body clean is the blood. The quality of your body is going to be determined on the quality of your blood, and good, clean blood is based on how much oxygen you have in your system. And when you're eating foods too much, too often, and too late, when you're eating foods that are too high in sugar and all these other things, it creates fermentation. And fermentation is a poison to the body because it helps lower the amount of oxygen in the bloodstream and in the body in general. As we all know, we need oxygen to survive. So we have to be careful with when we eat, how much we eat, and the types of food we eat. To keep the oxygen in the body, we need to eat more chlorophyll-rich green foods. We need to eat more chlorophyll-rich green foods because that's where the chlorophyll is, which is almost like drinking liquid oxygen. One of the greatest things you could put in your body is go right downstairs, this liquid algae called E3 Live. E3 Live, or get other sea vegetables, salad greens, and sprouts, and sunflower sprouts, and wheatgrass, and these things. This is what the majority of the body needs. So from a diet standpoint, eat the foods that are going to give your body the most nutrients while using the least amount of energy to get those nutrients while keeping the environment of the body as clean as possible. And that's the formula for health right there. From that standpoint, I have that book downstairs. Some other people are selling it as well. I also have that on video on my website and so on. And you can go on YouTube, type my name on YouTube. You can find me. I have a new video every day posted to YouTube. But you can also access that through rawlifehealthshow.com and just sign up for that. I have a lot of great new programs coming out. I have a new Inner Circle coming out where, I'm going to be giving new information every month to people that join this program. And the first people that join it are going to get in for free. Because I have this motto, if it's free, it's for me. Well, if it's free, it can be for you also. Because I'm not doing this because I want to make a lot of money. I'm doing this because I know what it is to live with pain, and I want to help people not have to live with pain. You see, when you eat raw foods, not only does it make you feel great, but it also makes you talk very fast. And I can go faster. You see, as the time's winding down, I'm talking faster because you're going to say, well, that guy was great, I understood him, and you're going to say, I didn't understand him, and you're going to come see me again. So tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, I'm giving a lecture called Health According to the Scriptures. I have found the greatest health book ever written is the Bible. And right in there, I'm going to pull those scriptures out and show you what they are at 9 a.m. And then I'm going to, Sunday afternoon, I believe at 2, but I'm not exactly sure, so check the schedule. My new book, my latest work, and I've been studying this for years, and I have the book coming out next month. It's not even out yet. If you're going to see anything, see that. It's called The Daylight Diet. The Daylight Diet. That is the most important thing we need to do, and the biggest problem we have is we're eating our food when it's dark outside, and that's when digestion is working at its worst. If we're eating a raw food diet to improve digestion, it's an oxymoron to eat a raw food diet and then eat late at night. So we need to understand that, and I'm going to give you that information. I'm going to share that with you as well. So we have all this great stuff coming out. Come downstairs, meet me. If anyone has questions about raising children raw or having children raw, my wife's down there also. If you have questions about dealing with crazy parents, you can talk to my daughter. If you understand baby language, she'll answer you. I'm not taking questions now because we don't have too much time, but these shoes, you know, walking barefoot has always been so powerful to me. I always tell people, walk barefoot. You need to, because the big shoes aren't good for your feet. Matter of fact, just think about this for a second. One of the greatest diets you can eat, I'm going to get a new book out called The Homeless Diet. Because they walk barefoot, they eat frugally, and they sleep at night. It's a great thing. That's why you don't see too many obese homeless people, right? You know, and they have energy because they're working for their food, digging in the garbage cans. But these foods, these shoes, they go along with the structure of the feet. They're called Vibram 5 Fingers, and you can go on the internet and find out where they sell them. Vibram 5 Fingers, and so on. So, you know, I have a lot more to say, but I want to respect the next speaker. If you're listening out there, you know, you should have came here to Fort Bragg. It's wonderful. Come next year. But you're not going to miss anything. You could just go online and see everything. And check out my website while you're there, which, again, is paulnison.com. And I really do have to say this because we are at this event. By the way, I'm going to be the MC of the pie contest I just found out. And 2 years ago I was, and it is going to be a fun contest. But I do have to say this. Go hear my friend John Kohler speak because he's going to tell you what's truly raw and what's being fake raw. Or, you know, my friend Kevin Gianni has a great new book out called High Raw. Well, I should come out with a book called Fake Raw because we need to understand that not everything is really raw, but not everything's really healthy. You know, I'm not one of the most popular speakers out because I tell the truth. I'm not going to, if I want to make the most money and be the most popular speaker, I'm going to say, you know, drink coffee, eat late at night, eat tons of fruit, and eat chocolate. But I tell you the opposite of all that, because those things aren't conducive to a healthy lifestyle. Yes, that's right. Cacao, also known as cacao, raw chocolate, is not healthy. So we need to understand these things. Eating fruit. Fruit is one of the greatest foods for your body. But if you overdo it, it could be one of the worst. You know, but we understand. We keep it natural. We understand the true superfoods in nature are the raw, ripe, fresh, organic fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. We eat them at the right times. We eat them also with the right attitude. And we'll be fine. That's all we need. And get good sleep. And that's wonderful. All right. I'm also, by the way, yes. Yes, I told you again. Tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. In wherever Jameis was going to speak. Abundant Health. Abundant Health. And then Friday at, and then Sunday, whatever time it is. Does somebody look at that? 2 p.m. on Sunday at Town Hall. And the last thing is, you could find me on Facebook. You could find me on MySpace, Your Place, Raw Space, and all those places. But I'm on Facebook. Become my Facebook friend if you're already not. Please tweet me. I'm on tweet. And you can find, you can tweet me and all that. What? John Kohler. He's filling in for somebody as well, but he's right next to my table, so go see him. All right, everybody. I hope to see you tomorrow. Thank you so much for coming to see me today, and Yahweh bless you. Thank you.